Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Angel Protocol Volume 1 podcast. And I guess we'll just say Angel Protocol. So I am writing a light novel, which might end up being a novel depending on art budget reasons. But today, will be, well, I won't be narrating. I'm going to let Speechify narrate because we're going to try to get a brand deal with Speechify. Only because this is the rough draft. So welcome to chapter one. We're going to name this Where Are My Friends? And it is written and being hosted by me, Terrio Jenkins. I am a graphic designer, a novelist, and a screenwriter. So, yeah, so let's get into it. This is going to be live, it's going to be raw, and I'm going to provide commentary at the end. So, why should you care? Why should you listen to this? If you love stories that blend spiritual depth, supernatural powers, squad dynamics, you're in the right place. Angel Protocol is like Touched by an Angel, Power Rangers, and Bleach all roll into one. I know that sounds crazy, which with characters that feel like they were straight out of a different world or Avatar: The Last Airbender. Those were like when it came to the character creations, those were kind of like my mashups. It's dramatic, messy, beautiful, and heroic. And this chapter is just the beginning. So, quick disclaimer, this is a rough draft. No edits, no polish. I wrote this about 4 years ago after a lot of people loved the prologue, but I decided to ditch the prologue because when we start doing the revisions, I have a better feel of where I want the story to go. I have a better feel of the characters. The characters are going to seem really flat, not going to lie to you. And the plot is kind of like all over the place because there was like three, four different things I was trying to accomplish. But I now have the linear story. So I'm just letting you guys know this is the rough draft. So it's like I said, no edits, no polish. That means the grammar, the continuity, and plot might be a little messy. That's on purpose. I was writing this for NaNoWriMo that year. So so that's when we write a novel in a month. So I was just kind of writing. I have writing prompts and I was just writing. You're going to be hearing it raw as it's being built. Think of it as a creative behind the scenes look into developing a universe because Angel Protocol is one of the series in my larger super magical superhero universe, which is Be Terrific Media. All right, so with that being said, we're gonna have Speechify take over, and our narrator, I believe her name is Jill.
The woman's voice cut through her thoughts again. So, you don't remember how you got here?
I don't know.
Flashback, the bullet,
Yeah,
Washington,
you started early. You started early. All right, so here we go. Angel Protocol 1, Chapter 1, Rough Draft. Let's hit it.
D.C. Yesterday. The smell
Oh,
of warm food and coffee filled the air at the bullet. A small. Chapter 1. Chapter 1.
well, I might have to start reading.
Chapter 1.
Why are we not just starting from the beginning of the document?
Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Chapter 1.
It doesn't want to.
Chapter 1.
Okay, I must be doing something different. All right, well, I don't know why. We'll try it one more time. Let me see. Why were you? Oh, you know what? Maybe we'll turn editing off. Let's just go to viewing, and maybe that might help.
Chapter 1. Chapter 1.
That is crazy. See, it figures. I finally get in the mood to get this done for Age of Protocol, and something has to go wrong, right? All right. So I'm just going to read it myself. So I don't feel like wearing my glasses, so I got to enlarge this. I am so sorry. I thought I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why. Actually, you know what? Let's reload.
Chapter 1. Jasmine's eyes fluttered open, but the world around her was blurry and spinning. A sharp pain radiated from her head, making it difficult to focus. She could hear voices, faint and distant, but they were so far away, like they were coming from the end of a tunnel. Her body felt heavy, unresponsive. Panic gripped her chest as she struggled to move. She couldn't. Her arms were restrained. Something was holding her in place, too tightly. Her breath quickened, and she tried to call out, but her voice was nothing more than a hoarse whisper. "Where am I?" she thought frantically. What happened? She could still taste the remnants of the food they had eaten earlier, a familiar comfort, but now it felt distant, like it belonged to someone else's memory. No, Jasmine, focus. She shook her head, fighting against the overwhelming sense of dread Aaliyah up on her. Her body didn't want to cooperate. She fought to stay awake, to shake off the fog trying to consume her. Stay with us, a voice urged, calm yet strange. It was unfamiliar, cold. The edges of her vision began to sharpen, and she saw a woman standing above her, her eyes scanning Jasmine intently. The woman had long dark hair and wore a black robe over a white lab coat. Her expression was too calm, too composed. Jasmine's mind raced as she tried to make sense of what was happening. She tried to lift her arms but couldn't move beyond the restraints on her wrists. Panic surged within her chest, but she pushed it back, forcing herself to breathe slowly. "You've got this. Think. You've got to stay calm." "Who are you?" Jasmine asked, her voice hoarse but desperate. The words felt strange, as if she were speaking from underwater. Her throat was dry, and her lips cracked. The woman smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. "You're in my lab. I saved you and your friends." "Saved?" Jasmine's mind swirled. She remembered the others, their laughter, their chatter, their camaraderie. "But where are they? Where are my friends?" Jasmine demanded, her heart racing. She needed to know where they were and what had happened to
Where are my
them.
friends?
She strained to see beyond the woman, but the room was too dark, too unfamiliar. The woman didn't immediately answer. Jasmine could feel the woman's gaze on her, cold and assessing. The sense of unease crawled up her spine. "They're here too," the woman finally said. "You'll see them soon." What is she doing to us? Jasmine's mind fought to stay focused. Think, Jasmine. You have to think. The restraints, the cold, the sterile feel of the room. It was too clinical, too much like a lab. They had been in Washington, D.C. at that little diner, celebrating Omarian's birthday. The atmosphere had been warm and filled with laughter. Now, it felt like a lifetime ago. "Don't panic." She closed her eyes briefly, steadying her breath, trying to force herself back to that moment. She remembered the last things that had felt real, the last moments before the world had tilted sideways. The soft beep of machines in the lab brought Jasmine back to reality. She blinked, her heart hammering in her chest as she focused on the woman's face once again. Her words echoed in Jasmine's ears, but all she could think about was her friends. Are they okay? Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and fears, but one thing was clear. She couldn't give up. Joy wouldn't let her. Even when everything felt wrong, when fear threatened to overwhelm her, she held on to the hope that, somehow, they would get out of this. She had to believe they would. The woman's voice cut through her thoughts again. "So, you don't remember how you got here?" Flashback, the bullet, Washington,
Hmm.
D.C. Yesterday. The smell
So
of warm food and coffee filled
I
the
might
air at
get
the
rid of this
billet, a
flashback.
small diner in Washington,
We'll
D.C.
talk about it at the end.
Omarian's birthday celebration was in full swing, and Jasmine was thrilled. This was what she'd been working for, a chance to bring the group together, away from the pressures of their daily lives. Omarion, ever the good-natured giant, smiled warmly as he picked up a spoonful of strawberry shortcake. He was the biggest guy at the table, yet his laugh was soft and infectious. He was enjoying himself. Thanks, guys, Omarion said, his voice thick with emotion. I didn't think anyone would remember. Nas, sitting between him and Shaggy, raised his glass and winked. Of course, we remembered. We're like family. Jasmine beamed at the sentiment. This is it. This is what it's all about. She had worked hard to make this trip happen, and seeing her friends come together like this, laughing, eating, it was worth every minute of the planning. But even as they celebrated, Jasmine's need to control everything showed. She glanced at the clock on the wall, mentally calculating the time they had left before they needed to ends, Jasmine demanded, her heart racing. She
Oops,
needed to know where they were and what had happened to them. She strained
my bad.
Nas sitting between him and Shaggy, raised his glass and winked. Of course, we remembered. We're like
I
family.
was trying to end it.
Jasmine beamed at the sentiment. This is it. This is what it's all about. She had worked hard to make this trip happen, and seeing her friends come together like this, laughing, eating, it was worth every minute of the planning. But even as they celebrated, Jasmine's need to control everything showed. She glanced at the clock on the wall, mentally calculating the time they had left before they needed to head back for the evening sermon. You guys enjoying the trip so far? Jasmine asked, her tone light but with an edge of concern. We've been busy with seminars, but don't forget to make time to relax. We need to pace ourselves. Aaliyah, who was quieter than the rest, responded in her usual aloof manner. As long as you don't put too much on our plates, Jasmine, I'll be fine. She was taking pictures of her cute outfit for her Instagram. Although Jasmine could appreciate fashion, Aaliyah was obsessed. But when it came to worship, Aaliyah could be counted on for singing and had been one of the longest tenure members of the group. Jasmine smiled at Aaliyah but felt a pang of frustration. Aaliyah wasn't like the others. She was often distant, more interested in her thoughts than in group dynamics. But Jasmine couldn't help herself. She always felt the need to organize, to ensure everything went as planned. The flaw was deep-rooted, the urge to lead, to make sure everything was just right, to manage every tiny detail, was never far behind. Shaggy leaned back in his chair, arms folded, his usual deadpan expression making it hard to tell whether he was amused or annoyed. Don't worry, Jasmine, no one's attacking you, we all know you're in charge. Jasmine laughed, grateful for the humor that softened the tension. I'm not that bad, she replied, her smile growing. But as she looked at the others, she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that if she didn't keep things on track, no one else would. The group might fall apart, and that terrified her. Omarion, ever the peacekeeper, chuckled softly. You've been the glue that keeps us together, Jasmine. You're always looking out for us. Jasmine's heart warmed at the compliment, but she couldn't stop the thought that flitted through her mind. I'm doing this because I have to. It's what I'm supposed to do. It's who I am.
All right. So that is the end of chapter one. So we start off with Jasmine waking up restrained in a lab. Um, the reason why I did that is because the original, like almost 10 years ago, the original plot, or I guess I should say the original story, was that one of this Bible study group, they were humans, but they were being experimented on by a fallen angel, so they ended up getting their powers. The whole story supposed to be about them escaping and from this lab. So kind of like Saw 2, Misery by Stephen King, just trying to escape. You can even say the Hunger Games, where you try and survive a game. So that was the original intent. And then somewhere down the line it became more like the Born Identity, and I wanted them to be fallen angels who didn't remember themselves. But Jasmine is the group's leader. She's also the founder of this Bible study group. So it's not just she's friends with everybody, it's her group. She's very controlling, and that's one of the things that makes her strong is that she has to be in control. She's kind of like a mom. She's like that over controlling mom kind of figure. And right now I have her being sweet, but kind of like Serial Mom, if you guys have ever seen that movie, it's hilarious. We're gonna see that her controlling nature does rub some of them the wrong way. You kind of see it with Aaliyah. Um, I think you can kind of see it with Shaggy as well. So, but her strength is that this is, she created the space for her friends, her now friends, and that's what's going to drive her. So she's, I guess you could say she's kind of like a stereotypical anime shonen protagonist, but it's going to be her friends that ultimately drive her. But right now, what's driving her is like it's her baby, and her baby's in danger. So that's where her strength is coming from. What's really going on between Jasmine and Aaliyah in this chapter? So originally, Aaliyah was supposed to be kind of like quiet and just fall in line kind of friend. And she looks up to Jasmine, even though Jasmine and Aaliyah were always supposed to be kind of like opposites. Like Aaliyah's out there still having sex. Aaliyah shows off her body. Jasmine is conservative. So they're in different walks of their Christian faith. So, but to give Aaliyah a little more pizzazz, I did try to interject a little bit of making her a fashionista. So she's always kind of like in her phone taking pictures of herself and stuff like that. So right there, and Aaliyah's role in terms of the group is that she is going to be Jasmine's foil. So even though they're both good guys and they're both Christians, we're going to see different sides of femininity when it comes to Jasmine and Aaliyah, both in a positive way and both in a negative way. So that's what's going on there. The more so I was trying to create with the flashback. Originally, the flashback came first, and then we cut to the present. Is how I originally wrote it. For this presentation of the rough draft, I decided to swap it around to see if that works. I do kind of like it, but I also feel like I don't know. Like one of my goals was to really grab the reader, so I feel like the opening we have now will grab you like she's making up. But I also feel like we do. I don't know if I really want to tell the story in flashbacks of everything that led up to their capture. I think I want, well, I'm going to tell you now. I want to, as much as I want to grab you and keep you reading, I am going to take the risk, and we're going to probably start with the flashbacks and lead up to the capture. Um, the reason why I'm struggling with that is because for some of my other books, I feel like there's two other books where it's kind of similar beginnings. But we'll see. I think the story will be better served by showing you them in the diner first. So, but the diner is a more vibrant scene, and obviously that's supposed to contrast this cold, sterile lab that Jasmine and the others wake up in. So so it was intentional, but like I said, I feel like I can I can probably get more story by making them separate chapters. And then B, I feel like we need to kind of build the personalities. I'm not saying that flashbacks don't work. Saw 2, Saw 1 worked that way. Um, I'm not gonna sit here and think every movie, it can be done. Um, I just feel like for me and where I am in my writing journey, I want it to be more linear. I don't want to do because there's a lot of flashbacks. And I was reading some advice that if you have that many flashbacks, it probably should be its own story. So I think we are going to get rid of the flashbacks, and we're just going to build up to them getting captured because that happens actually really, really early. So, um, so the next question here is Jasmine seems obsessed with control. Why? Where does the pressure come from? So again, Jasmine, when we create characters, you don't want to create perfect characters. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people love Superman or they hate Superman. Because Superman has no real weaknesses, right? Like kryptonite, like you gotta go find kryptonite. How are you gonna turn the sun red? I mean there's Lois Lane, but I digress. I'm in the middle of the road when it comes to Superman. But everybody had what makes characters like Goku, right? Interesting is that there's a flaw. And I guess you can say with Superman, his flaw is he cares too much. And with Jasmine, when I was designing the character, so outside of taking a trait from a character from Avatar the Last Airbender and a character from a different world, um, I do try to design them around flaws, and I usually use the Seven Deadly Sins just to get me started. And so her obsession with control comes from a source of pride. So, she made this Bible study group. She made her grades. She made this trip happen, right? So she is obsessed with control, and that's what we are supposed to get out of this chapter. So the woman says now the last question is the woman says that they were saved, but this doesn't feel like salvation. What do you want listeners to question about power and trust? That's that's deep. So the theme for Angel Protocol 1 has changed a lot. And that's one of the reasons why going into this revision, I had to kind of like start over. And for those of you that don't know, part of my writing process is once I figure out what my theme is, I always attach a Bible verse to it. When I wrote Angel Protocol 1, there was a Bible verse for each chapter. I'm doing away with that. Because I'm not even sure if they really align well. Because again, I was writing fast. But power and trust is going to probably be subparts of the larger theme. The theme that I believe I'm going with is going to be redemption. Um, because her controlling nature is going to affect the group, especially once they get caught in this supernatural plot, right? So, power and trust is going to be not only in each other, but in God, right? And that's ultimately what this series is supposed to be. This is my inspirational slash superhero series. So, power and trust, we got to trust in the power of God that He's going to get us through this. So, hopefully, that's what's going the reader will see the characters struggle with as we go on. So, again, that's probably actually is going to be the theme. It's probably not going to be redemption. Redemption was when they were actually going to be fallen angels themselves. So yeah, so we'll probably be looking at power and trust. Because trust was one of the things that I really did want to touch upon in all the previous ideas and stuff. So, but yeah, that's I'm glad glad those questions. So now these are questions for you guys. And you can let me know in the comments. What would you do if you woke up restrained in the lab? Which characters stood out to you the most in chapter one? That's a big one. I really do need to know that. Do you think Jasmine is a leader or is she holding on too tightly? Should I keep dropping these rough new draft chapters or wait until it's polished? And what do you think the Angel Protocol is? That's that's the kicker right there. So that's it. So thank you guys for listening to this audiobook version right here on Spotify. Or if you're watching the full video version on YouTube, visit beterrificmedia.com where you can subscribe to our Patreon for free. And if you would like to be part of the Hive, you can join our paid tiers for bonus content, early access, and exclusive updates. Thank you guys again for listening. Angel Protocol is part of my expanding superhero universe, brought to you by Be Terrific Media. And always remember, be terrific.